over to you, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Noelle, and you can get the meeting started, okay?
Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I would like to pass it on to Isabella. She'll say the welcome.
The CSUN Trends Annual Fashion Career Symposium. We are excited to have you all here today joining us for Trends' biggest event of the fall semester, presented by the California Fashion Association alongside CSUN Trends. We are honored to hear from experts in the fashion industry and to have the opportunity to have a question and answer portion after the presentation. We thank you all for joining us, and a special thanks to the California Fashion Association President and our moderator today, Ilse Metchek, and Tammy Chatkin-Newman, the Executive Vice President of 24/7 Incorporated, for taking time out of their day to come speak with us. Before we commence with the presentation, we would like to take a moment to share a little bit about Trends and about our club history, as well as to introduce our club advisor and our officers, as well as to introduce some of the CSUN faculty joining us here today. So I will pass the mic over to Nia, who will get us started in sharing a little bit more about our organization.
Thanks, Isabella. Trends is a nonprofit or student-run organization at California State University Northridge that helps students gain the knowledge and preparation needed to work in the fashion industry. For over 20 years, Trends has involved students, faculty, and the surrounding communities on campus to educate and promote interest in topics within the apparel industry. Priceless opportunities are presented to students, communities through annual events such as this year's Career Symposium, Trends fashion shows, history tour throughout the year. We have wonderful guest speakers as well. And now, Jaylene will
Why is it so quiet?
Jaylene, over to you.
Thanks, Nia. I have the pleasure to introduce our club advisor, Professor Shirley Warren. Under her guidance, Trends continues to grow every year with her dedication and passion to make sure it reaches its fullest potential that will benefit many students in years to come. We have a talented, hardworking team of officers who are thrilled to be part of this event. I am pleased to introduce Noelle Tarpinian, our club president, Anna Ruiz Bonaparte, our vice president, Nia Boyd, our secretary and treasurer, Elvia Almanza, our creative director, Jaylene Ruiz, myself as public relation manager number 1, and alongside with me, Isabella Barker as public relation manager number 2. And now, Elvia, over to you.
Thanks, Jaylene. On behalf of all the students, we would like to express our gratitude to all CSUN faculty. Despite what has occurred with the pandemic, you have all provided support and the best learning experience possible for us during this challenging time. Thank you. I would like to introduce our College of Health and Human Development Associate Dean, Dimitri Tamales, Family and Consumer Sciences Department Chair, Dr. Yi Tom Kai, and now to introduce our Faculty Apparel Design and Merchandising. Professor Maureen Boyajian, Dr. Wei Kao, Dr. Hyra Cho, Dr. Young-Jin Kim, Dr. Diane Lewis Goldstein, Dr. Tracy Chung, and Professor Shirley Warren, our advisor. And now, up next, our Trends CSUN President, Noelle, over to you.
Thank you, Elvia. Today, I have the honor to introduce the president of the California Fashion Association, Ilse Metchek, who will be our moderator. The FCA provides leaders of Southern California's manufacturing and textile community with the opportunity to share information about the business of conducting business in the current global fashion economy. I also have the honor of introducing Tammy Chatkin-Newman, Executive Vice President of 24/7 Inc. 24/7 is the premier creative resource within the fashion, home, beauty, and entertainment industries. 24/7 has pioneered the freelancer within the fashion industry. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Ms. Metchek and Ms. Chatkin-Newman. And now I would like to pass it along to Ms. Metchek to begin our panel discussion, which will be followed by Q&A. So please feel free to use the chat.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all again, but I really look forward to seeing you in person soon. soon. At least this way we do not need our masks. I'm going to go through all of the issues that will make you entrepreneurs. It's more than just being a fashion designer or being a merchandiser. In order to design and merchandise, you really have to understand the business. Who is your customer and what are their issues? So that's what we're going to talk about today. The outline, we're going to briefly, the business of the fashion business. Influencers, that's your area. And then the legal issues of influencers, which are coming up as quickly as influencers are important, the legal issues follow. Sustainability, technology, and your career. All of these things are very, very important, should be very important to you. They will be very important to you in your future. Fashion design evolves. It doesn't change much. It evolves. This is 1968, Andre Courage. I hate to tell you, but yes, that's what I looked like in 1968. And here is Dior, spring 2021. So it's an evolution in fashion. You have a pattern, you have a body, you have two arms and a neck. There's not a lot you can do within that parameter, but the business changes dramatically. In Los Angeles, which is probably where 90% of you will have your career based, whether it's retail or manufacturing, you have over 8,000 establishments, not contractors. We're not talking about a sewing shop. 8,000 people who are either branded or making for a brand, designing for a brand, employment. And we have shipped, this is pre-COVID, $43 billion out of Los Angeles. To give you an idea of how important you are. This is the UK, that's the British. Money Co. is the British magazine that does all surveys and reports. This is their new report. Los Angeles is the top global city for inspiring our, meaning the Brits, fashion. This is very significant. This is the first time. Well, it's interesting, number 2 and number 3 is Sydney, Australia, and Dubai. This is all based on people's interest in Pinterest. So what happens is people in the UK are stepping up to Pinterest, and it winds up that most of the things that they love are Los Angeles-based product, not necessarily made here, but Los Angeles brands. So where is online versus offline? In your particular minds, because you are that generation, you think everything happens online. It doesn't. Less than 30% of fashion merchandise, that's footwear, apparel, and accessories and jewelry, less than 30% is bought online. Now, the numbers lie a bit, and let me tell you how they lie. The major stores like Nordstrom's, Bloomingdale's, Macy's, Penny's, they include their online numbers with their general sales. So part of their business is online as well. And we are not able to capture that in this particular slide. But the 24% that is scheduled for 2022 and 2023 of online merchandise are pure online operations that do not have bricks and mortar facilities. And what is the problem with that number? What we're saying here is, what we're showing you here, that since COVID, more than half of what you are buying goes back. Pre-COVID, it was 34%. But in apparel, clothing and footwear, more than half of what you buy goes back. That is why it is not profitable. Pure online business, unless you can show that there's not an issue with fit, with productivity, with the way the product looks, with quality, with sizing, all of that, you will not make money on pure online. So online versus offline, it is growing. Right now, only $1 in every $10 flows online. By 2025, it'll be 1 in 5. They're growing much faster, but physical stores will always be important. Always. You want to feel it, touch it, exchange it. Somebody needs to unmute or unmic themselves, okay? Now we talk about an all-channel shopping experience. Here's your revenue. If you are a designer and you're a merchandiser, where do you want to be? You want to be in the market that has the most business, or you want to be in the market that stands still? Children's wear stands still mainly because you rarely see an independent retailer that is a children's store. Children's wear is a big box business and an online business. So being a children's wear designer, you're very limited. Menswear is growing, as we all know. 20 years ago, most of menswear was bought by their mother, by the guy's mothers or girlfriends or wives, okay? No way. I can't even buy my young grandsons clothes. They want to pick it out themselves with varying degrees of good taste. Doesn't matter. But guys are buying their own clothes, which is why the percent of sales is going up. So the issue you have is made in LA. And the reason that's important is if any of you are starting out to make product in a small way, you're not going to make it offshore. You're not going to make it in Mexico or China or anywhere else. You're going to try to make it locally. So we have to address the problems with made in LA. Excuse me. You don't have to know these right now, and there's no test involved here, but there are labor laws involved. There are registrations. There are piece rate laws. They are itemized statements for every worker. All of these are in effect. However, you have the media and the NGOs. NGO is non-government organizations who make a living calling contract-based work sweatshops. What is a sweatshop? It's an unregistered factory. Again, you must be registered. AB 633, you are jointly liable as a manufacturer for penalties. That's been in effect since 1995. So a sweatshop is not registered, usually paying their workers in cash. Understand that an undocumented worker cannot be hired by a registered factory, so you have a disconnect in politics here. The workers have no recourse for unpaid wages, and using an unregistered factory creates liability for you. If you wind up in a factory that is called before the Labor Department, you, as the employer of that factory, are also liable. So you must be very careful about who you use to make your product. The next issue, you have heard this if you are at all in tune to the news. The supply chain, the backlog. This is just, the little green dots are just some of the ships that are parked outside of Los Angeles and Long Beach harbors. So what you have is congestion on the West Coast gateways. We are the #1 gateway for Asia. Port of LA and Port of Long Beach, #1 gateway. And so there's a complete backup. There also is a backup. There are no truckers, not enough truckers to even get it off the port. And air freight now is very, very packed. Some of the reasons the planes are being canceled for private flights, or not for public flights, is because they're taking the seats out of the planes in order to carry merchandise. Experts tell me and tell us there's no sign of relief until late 2022. So whatever you see now, buy it now. It's not going to get any better. And why did this happen? The treatment of the Uyghurs, which are the Muslims in China, they are behind barbed wire in the Xinjiang province. That province produces 20% of the world's cotton and supplies most of the Western brands. Now, up to this point, nobody's asked, what field of cotton does my cotton come from? Now you must ask, because if you don't know, US Customs and Border Protection will not let you into the country. So the cotton import supply chain, you must show a chain of custody. What factory were your finished goods made in? What fabric was used and where did that fabric come from? What yarn was used to make that fabric? And where are the fibers and raw materials coming from? So the technology is quickly becoming developed in order to show chain of custody. You cannot do it without technology. The consequences, of course.
Nobody from my class is even here.
Nobody wants to credit. Yeah, I never go to that.
Okay. So I know you'll have a lot of questions about the shipping, the supply chain. You could ask them now or we can hold them till later. I'm going on to retailing today. The new retailing identity is very, very different. If you wanted to sell a major retailer, major meaning anyone more than 9 stores, 9 doors, there's a leased department. This has been the format for Europe forever. If you wanted to sell Galeries Lafayette in Paris, there's no buyer. You would have to make a deal with the store to put your brand in, and you would own the profitability of that department. And in some cases, the employee as well. The next part is your part of the world, micro branding. These are companies you never heard of. And the two, micro branding and clicks to bricks, go together. These are the top digital natives. That's micro branding. These are brands that were born on the internet that up to this point do not have bricks and mortar at all. And these 50 do more than, each one does more than $100 million. That's how big they are. If I were to put the 2020 list in, it would be different. The 2019 list is different. Every year, there is another list of the 50 top digital natives. Most of them try to go public with a SPAC. But what do they all do, all in our world? Now, please understand, they're not all fashion. These are digital natives of all. Some of them are furniture, some of them are cars, whatever it is, they go click the bricks. This is the new world of pop-up retailing. When the question becomes, who are going to be in the malls, the Class A and Class B malls? Anything less than that will probably be condominiums. But Class A and Class B malls, you will see pop-up stores from all of the digital natives. Why is that? I would switch back to the slide that I showed you, because 56% of this stuff gets returned. The only way to profitability is retailing. And where are we going, for example, and how quick is this? This brand online was only 1 year old. And mergers of money people, financial assets, tested the product, and they are funding them to go retail. So they have the first retail store in New York City. It's only 1 year online. What else is retailing new? It's an experience, experiential retailing. Psycho Bunny's target demographics are the millennial dads and their kids. We're working from home. Dad has to get out of the house too. When they take their kids shopping, it's got to be an experience. Now, Psycho Bunny's been along for a long time online. Now they're going into retail and they're going to compete, as you can see the look of it. Disney is coming back with their stores. Harry Potter will have stores. All of the brands that are experiential will have retail facilities. And it's not just apparel. It's the whole experience. It's pillows. It's everything. It's toys. But this is retailing today. You also have experiential events. Midnight Studios is an online apparel brand that is partnered with Live Stream Shopping Network. Now, the person who started Network, NT Work, was also a trade show producer called Agenda. So they started a live stream shopping network, and they're doing rave parties to sell merchandise from midnight to 3 a.m. This is all retailing. This is all the new way of retailing. There are more things to do than just open a store. And with the new retailing comes new methods of payment. You all know mobile payments. And if you don't, you should. That's the way retailing is going to the future. Some retailers are not even accepting credit cards, okay? Certainly, very few are accepting cash. But BNPL is only 6 months old. What is BNPL? Buy now, pay later. Now, those of us of advanced years and your parents remember a layaway plan. But layaway, you paid for it and you didn't get it until you finished paying for it. This is different. You buy it now and you pay for it later, depending on the terms. Look who's using it. Gen Z are the biggest users. Baby boomers are very, very far behind. 15% to 50% is very far behind. Your parents are going to be very cautious about doing this. The Gen Zs, you want it now. You can't pay for it now, okay? But you want it now. Now, this is BNPL. To avoid paying credit card interest, because you don't pay the interest. There's no credit card purchase here. You buy it from the retailer. The retailer goes to a direct provider and gets paid. So you get the merchandise, the retailer gets paid, and the brand gets paid. So there's a banking situation in the middle. It's going to be interesting for those of us who are watching the business of the business to see where this goes. If you're buying fast fashion and you get tired of something, and the cycle is only 10 weeks before you get tired of something, and you're still paying for it, even though you are just about to send it to ThredUp, who is going to be responsible for that bad debt? Now, if the brand is handling the buy now, pay later, they have to have somebody in AR as accounts receivable. They need somebody in bookkeeping. It disrupts cash flow. I mean, there's no money being exchanged, but merchandise is going out the door. So we are here to see how this works. But right now, please be aware that BNPL is with us. And here's the fun stuff, right? The influencers, the people with whom you are dealing every minute of the day. And hopefully some of you are starting to put down your phones and really converse with each other and talk to the world. The influencers are continuing reality, but we in business must say, not for long. What's next? So who are the real market drivers today? The mature customers have the money in the bank, but no one's designing for them. And no one's merchandising for them. It's called the silver surge. And the brands and retailers are really overlooking the boomers. Their share of the market and everyone else's share, let me just, I put that in the wrong spot. I'll get back to that in a minute. Okay. Oh, okay. The adult mature social media user is still virtually only on Facebook, where the Z's are moving away from Facebook, the mature is still on Facebook. So if you're designing for an Eileen Fisher customer, for your parents, for whoever, then you have to look at how you would market that. And it is generally on Facebook. Okay, so let me go back to the share of US marketers. Now, this is not just fashion and apparel. And this is not just home furnishings. Anyone who markets product, 92% are using social media. You have to ask yourself 10 years ago, what did they use 10 years ago? There was no social media as a marketing tool. There was social media, but not as a marketing tool. They used magazines, they used television, they used radio, they used direct mail, they used catalogs. Now, 92% are using social media. And of that 92%, 3/4 are using influencers. So the word influencer is a business category by itself. What is an influencer? We know about celebrity influencer marketing. Can Kanye West save the gap? Gee, I don't know. There's a hoodie that just came out that sold thousands right away. It's just a hoodie. I mean, it's doing very well. And this item hasn't even been shipped yet. The first 200 were shipped and scooped up and are now more than $1,000 on eBay. Hasn't shipped yet. Abercrombie is trying to save itself with TikTok. And I say save itself because some of these brands have really deteriorated because of influencer marketing into lesser branding. So here you have Abercrombie using TikTok. And the power of media moments cannot be ignored. Guys, you've got to watch TV. You've got to look at what's going on in streaming. You've got to be aware of what's going on around you to be in the fashion business. If you're not in the fashion business. When Beyonce's promo video for Ivy Park, her daughter, came out, Western wear is now trending again. Cowboy hats are out of stock. Burberry put a cowhide print in the line. The effect of media moments is extraordinary. During the Olympics, Tom Daley was crocheting. That was his way of getting calm. Knitted cardigans are up 41%. Crochet tops have increased. All of Khloe suddenly has it on their spring line. There is a cause and effect. Someone doesn't just dream this up. Media moments become craft class. And now you have Squid Games. I can't watch it. I'm sure you guys love it. But 7,800, this is not a typo. 7,800 100% spike in Vans slip-ons since Squid Games streamed. All white slip-ons have seen a 97% uptick. This is not an accident. This is fashion apparel. And this is why you must know what's going on in the world, because it does relate to you. You have media moments for the Silver Surge. Jenny May is a talk show host, primarily in New York. And she made a deal with Macy's. There's going to be a Jenny May line at Macy's, made by a New York clothing manufacturer. And may I point out that what she's wearing is a Chanel knockoff. So Jenny May is not a fashion maven, but it's a brand. It's a brand. It's a media moment going to retail. I showed you that already. So let's define influencers for a minute. Macro influencers, which you all know, that dollar figure is what you have to pay them for them to announce that they love your product. And they must say when they announce it that they're paid to announce it. But $172,000 per post, that is a macro influencer. But what is trending now is the micro influencer. These are much more relatable, and they have greater engagement levels if you want to sell product. They are 4 times likely to get a comment and 20 times more likely to get you to buy something if they are your influencers. Here are micro influencers. And look at their partners. When I say partners, these people pay them to tell you that they love what they're doing. That's a micro influencer. That's the trend. So what happens when you have all this business related to influencing? The Federal Trade Commission now steps in. This is federal, and this becomes not just a civil case where a lawyer sends you a letter. This is a legal case of deceptive endorsements. You must place simple and clear disclosure that somebody is paying you and giving you something for nothing. If you get it for nothing and you talk about it, if you get it for nothing and just wear it, that's one thing. But if you get it for nothing and talk about it because you love it, you must say that this is clearly someone that's paying you. These are influencers, important ones, who are showing you and proving their partnerships. It's a little phrase. It's our box, by the way. That red box is our box. That's how, where it says Fashionflux is an ad, they say it's an ad. Make sure to use my code when you buy it. That means they're getting paid. However, the study shows that 76% of Instagram creators hide their ad disclosures, and they are subject to FTC. The Detox Tea company will pay $1 million over influencer ads. In other words, not just the influencer who gets tagged, but the brand gets tagged when the influencer doesn't say it's an ad. Here's a great example. Little Ryan's family got $22 million in 2019 from all the toy companies that Little Ryan said he loved. They just were fined $3 million by the FTC because this Watchdog Truth, which is one of the agencies watching, fooling them into watching advertisements under the guise of entertainment. So this is an issue that's coming up so quickly that the influencers are starting to readdress what they're talking about. There's another part of influencer fraud. If you are a brand, if you all decide that you're going to use an influencer, and by the way, there are many, many agencies now who will pair you with the right influencer, the right metric, many agencies. But how do you know the influencer is being legitimate about the number that they say are following them? 15% of all influencer ad dollars are spent on fake followers bought by the influencers. The influencers are selling to each other their followers, their lists. And what influencer fraud is costing brands, because if I'm going to pay these people that kind of money, how do I know that that 46 million, that 1.9 million, that 44 million are reality? Because I'm paying based on their following. That's influencer fraud. So you, as a buyer of influencers, must make very sure that when they say they have X number of followers, that they do. And by the way, there are technologies that can prove it, that you can, again, everything costs money, but that must happen now. That's where we're going. So my question to you that I need you to think about is influencer fatigue coming? And if so, what's next? The people in my business think it's back to the stores, back to the malls, back to shopping, but we'll see. The next issue that is because of social media, and this is a beaut, it's called the right of publicity. There is no legal conscript for this. This is a civil issue. Civil meaning the right of attorneys to sue you on behalf of a class. And in California, there does not need to be a class, it could be one person. That the right of publicity is where you get a letter from a lawyer representing the person that you're putting on your website and saying you have no right to their name, their voice, their product, unless you pay me. And here are some cases that are current cases where Ariana Grande is suing Forever 21. This case is, she just filed this for the lookalike model. This is going to be interesting, $10 million. But in this case, Forever 21 just is bankrupt, that she sued the previous Forever 21. They went bankrupt, so this case is going nowhere. This one is in the books and is being settled right now as we speak. And Kim Kardashian, a $10 million right of publicity lawsuit. The lookalike in an ad with the same product. Forget about the copyright or the right to copy and knock off something else. That's a whole nother issue for another program. But here you're copying a person. So clearing the rights of publicity, you have to really look at these issues. Let's say you're designing a new look for activewear, and someone is wearing something that looks like that look, and you want to post it on your Instagram or on your website saying, this is who we're going after. This is the look we're going after. Well, you have no right to do that unless you clear with that person and get a written release from the person or their representative, meaning their agent. But what's next? This is the latest. This was 2 weeks ago. Is it 2 weeks ago or last week? Rinna is getting sued by the paparazzi. She doesn't even have the right to her own image because the photographer has the right to that picture. So we are now in a position where all these paparazzi, and you say to yourself, why are they doing this? Why are they following all these stars, celebrities? Because they have a right to their own picture. You cannot reprint their photo without getting their permission. So she is the agency representing the photographer that took this picture is suing Rinna for $1.2 million because she reposted a picture of herself on her own Instagram. That's where we're going. That's what happens when you have a new issue like social media. The laws and the issues are written after the fact. Next issue, manufacturing and the beautiful buzzword sustainability. What we are hoping for, we in the business, are progress, not perfection. Perfection is almost impossible. Greenwashing is when you say any of these things are, and they aren't. The only thing on this list that is a legal phrase where somebody can say to you, prove it, is organic. Everything else is a marketing phrase. Everything else, you have no way of knowing the level of environmental attention, circular economy, whether it's natural or sustainable. And if you say that and it isn't, then you're greenwashing your product. Even the New York Times showed what happened to an organic cotton tote. Somebody had an organic cotton tote as an ad in the New York Times. And this editorial took it to task. It needs to be used 20,000 times to offset its impact. Okay? Cotton is very water intensive, and it's associated with forced labor in China. To dispose of a tote with a print logo that's PVC based, and it has to be PVC based or you couldn't wash it. Therefore, it's not recyclable. These are the realities of environmental protection. So I put this in here because you all know and should know, these are all the components of apparel production. To be 100% sustainable or environmentally aware, every part of this has to be in the chain of sustainability. What are the decisions, therefore, that a manufacturer must make? If he or she wants to be able to say they're environmentally correct without greenwashing? Well, you have to use less chemical treatment in finishing. And up till now, this moment in time, there's no such thing as an indigo blue denim pant or garment that can function on your white sofa without chemical treatment, without you getting up and having the sofa blue. Indigo blue denim must have chemical treatment. Now, you can do denim looks, but denim in and of itself needs chemical treatments. Green packaging, if you are very successful and you sell 12 or a dozen T-shirts to your first client, your retail client, or online, you have to put it in a plastic bag. Otherwise, it will arrive as a wrinkled mess. As soon as you put your organic cotton T-shirt in a plastic bag, it is no longer green. The effects of the plastic rub-off, plastic in and of itself is a bad idea. Organic components. I would do a whole hour on organic components. If you see two t-shirts or two garments next to each other, they're the same price, but one is organic and one is not, and they're the same price, they aren't. Organic is 20% more. Organic cotton costs the textile company and the manufacturer 20% more to do. If it's not more expensive, then the person not saying organic is making a lot of money. And transparent factory oversight for labor, you're constitutionally protected from not being able to go into a factory unless you're doing business with them. You can't knock on the door and say, let me see your labor. You must have permission to enter. And in China, you can't see any factory, even if you ask. The circular economy, I'm going to discuss that later, but the circular, making one at a time. If any of you have cut a pattern or made a marker or seen a marker, you will know that the more you make, the more you save. So making one at a time, you waste up to 15% of fabric. How do you judge sustainability? The best judge of where you are as a company or as a person or as a retailer is the Higgs Index. Now, the Higgs Index gives no awards, gives no seals of approval. It is an index that was put together about 6 years ago between Patagonia, Walmart, Target, and North Face in a room. And it's an index whereby 100% is attributed to the way you handle a facility, the way you talk about your brand, and the way you design and create your product. No one but Patagonia has ever reached 100%. But we do have a new certification that's interesting and that's being recommended by retailers. Retailers like to see B Corp. It's regarded as a gold standard. It requires a major 300-question survey detailing the way your operation works. Now, there's wiggle room to lie here. They don't check. But if you want to be certified, excuse me, the B Corp community grew by 25% in 2020. With this year, it's getting to be more and more important. Good America, just last week, announced their B Corp. That's the Khloe Kardashian's line, although I think she just sold it. And we know that Kane is B Corp. We know that Nature USA is B Corp. Trina Turk is B Corp. So we have a number of them in California. But that's an excellent certification, very hard to get. I don't know what's going on with that road. We go to the next interesting issue. And this has to do with sustainability and law, both. So before you get very excited about reuse, recycle, vintage, secondhand, repurpose, upcycle, customizing, be aware that this is all in transition right now. It's the newest, latest buzzword, but it has its issues. Understand, please, the difference between repurpose and resale. Repurpose is you're taking stuff, cutting it up and making something new. Resale is you're using the brand's value and reselling it just as it is. Here are two examples: repurpose, resale. The first sale doctrine, now we get into the law of resale. It allows display of copyrighted work upon purchase. So if you buy Nike shoes you can show that you bought Nike shoes, your first sale. If those Nike shoes are repurposed into something else, then you're running afoul of the trademark and copyright laws. You cannot take a Nike swoosh and just fix it a little bit and make it your own without Nike or anybody else coming down at you. I'm using Nike here because they are up in arms about this issue, and they are the ones that are taking it to court. In most cases, we see it being settled, but they are taking it to court to make it a legal doctrine. Here they took little Nas's shoe, his with a drop of human blood, but it still has the Nike swoosh on it. The settlement with it was settled with Mischief. Okay. Meanwhile, Mischief shoe is still on StockX for $1,000. Now, to be clear and to be fair, while this had to go to court, it was going to go to court. They did settle, is because Little Nas bought up every one of the Nike black shoe. The Nike Air Max 97 shoe, Little Nas, before he did this, bought up every pair that he could find. He bought it from Nike too, not telling them what he was going to do. Then you have customizing, where you take something and you fix it up. You customize it. This is counterfeiting, trademark infringement, false designation of origin. That's a very big one now. False designation of origin and trademark dilution. So they built it. Now, Drip Creations built its name, customizing Nike's Air Force One sneaker. They took the basic Air Force One sneaker and customized it. Now, however, they were not even Nikes. Once they really got into this lawsuit, they were not even Nikes. They were Nike counterfeits. This case is going on right now. It'll be interesting where it goes. Walmart bought the shoe from a third party. It's third party. In other words, you buy it on a Walmart website, but it's not in Walmart. You buy it from the third party marketplace seller, just like when you buy from Amazon. And Nike, Yeezy is suing them. Virtually undistinguishable knockoff. And Walmart says, hey, I didn't buy it to counterfeit it. I bought it from a third party. It's very, very interesting. They are arguing that they are immune against claims arising from products offered by third-party sellers. Now, the other one that's using this Communications Decency Act is Amazon. You don't know where it comes from when you buy it, when something from Amazon doesn't come from Amazon. So the reality of secondhand is really quite interesting. What is all this noise about? It's about 30% of reused merchandise, 30%, between 32, 38, is resold with refurbishment. That's a lot. The legality of all of that is in question. But take a look at what 50% of secondhand. It's downcycled into installation, stuffing, or as as 4 Days said, it's just a pit stop away from the landfill. So is recycle sustainable? They advertise themselves as part of the sustainability factor. This is ThredUp. I'm sure even half of you have used ThredUp. ThredUp is being used by the Generation Z. It's a big green bag in your closet where you throw everything you don't want anymore. Zip it up. It's pre-addressed, no shipping charges. You put it in the mail, it goes to ThredUp. They pay you if they can sell it, you get 30% of what they sell it for. Or if they donate it, and I put that in quotes, you get notice that your product has been donated. But this is what it looks like. Note the plastic bags, note the dry cleaning necessary. They get 100,000 items a day and 30,000 are sold. This is their warehouse. Is that part of sustainability? I ask you. So your future will depend on your knowledge of technology. And we are here to assist Cal State Northridge with getting on campus all the technology, at least so that when you go out for a job, you are familiar with all of these terms. You are familiar with how to use them. You don't have to be the expert in them, but don't stand there and stare and say you don't know what CAD is or you don't know what PLM is. You must know what these terms mean. PLM is from the point that you design the product, knowing how much the fabric costs, knowing how much every part of it costs, where are you going to make it? All of the product life cycle of that product before it gets shipped from the design to when it goes out the door is PLM. And that's where you need your tech pack knowledge. That's where you need the knowledge of statistics and measurement. ERP is when the product goes out the door. Where is it being distributed? How is it being shipped? How are you getting paid? Are you putting it on your website or are you shipping it to a retailer? How is it being manufactured? And are you watching the manufacturer? Again, back to the legal issues. So your lawyer is here in ERP. CAD, computer-aided design, no one of the major stores gets a sample anymore since COVID. The buyers are home. They do not want samples in boxes. They want to see your CAD. And before they buy it and pick from 50 different CAD designs, maybe they will tell you to make 2 of them up as samples. But your presentation skills, your portfolio, every garment that you sketch or make or think about should have a CAD presentation next to it. That will get you a job. If you don't know CAD, you will not be able to be working in an apparel, a multi-line apparel manufacturer. This is not true of couture or bridal or costume. But if you're talking about a manufacturer of repute, with every garment you make, you must make a CAD, computer-aided design. And what is all of this design to production for? What is it showing us? It is showing us that this is the way, not only of the future, but of the present. You must know it. There are, and I'm just using Tukatech, but there are other, Gerber does it, Lectra does it. There's a bunch of different technologies. But you must show to a buyer sitting at home, the buyers are home, a moving visualizer so that they can see how the fabric moves. You must show a digitized tech pack down to the cost of shipping. If you are showing a print, you can show different digital colorways without artwork. And this is a marker, by the way. I'm sure all of you, I hope all of you have seen a marker. This is why you fit all the pattern pieces in to save every inch of fabric. Digitized markers, digitized tech packs, digitized fit models, and digitized textiles. That is design to production. This is the new normal. Hopefully, your curriculum shows you how each of these things, from design to consumer engagement, is involved in technology. From virtual sampling, which is what I just showed you, the CAD, and then you get a video sign-off, digital sell-in. You have virtual showrooms. If you were going to look at the California Market Center, the MART, during Market Week, you don't have to go. There are digital showrooms. Nearshoring. Where are you going to hold your inventory? Based on current supply chain, nearshoring could be Mexico and it could be Canada. It does not have to be Los Angeles. Could be Arizona, could be Nevada. And virtual shows. Please don't consider as the cost of doing business in not mass market, in general apparel sales, the cost of a 250,000 fashion show. It's useless. Hello, Tammy. Okay, so the whole issue for faster decision-making, you must understand the use of 3D virtual sampling and planning with artificial intelligence. Now, another word for artificial intelligence is data analytics. You need to know the numbers. I know it's right brain, left brain thinking, but you need to know the numbers. So we have smart fabrics and 3D now. We have 3D measuring the human body. So solutions for fit. It has, in some cases, a 30% decrease in return rates, but it hasn't really worked in dresses or close-fitting styles. Technology is clearly the driver. I cannot stress that to you more. And just in time, let me introduce to you Tammy Chatkin-Newman.
Thank you.
Executive Director of 24/7. 24/7 is the leading job search opportunity for people in the business, for executives. But as a person, Tammy is very interested in you because she's going to be around for another 10 years and you're going to be there as an executive within that 10-year period, I hope.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'll be, but I'll watch.
You'll be here, Ilse, for sure. For sure.
For sure. So this is Tammy, and her bio is there for you. This whole program is going to be there for you. She is the expert in what's going on. Tammy, I'm going to just push this along. You're going to talk about it. Okay.
Great. Perfect. Thanks, Ilse. So, I mean, I was sitting listening to you, Ilse, and I was like nodding my head at everything. Technology, everything. Like, this is one of my favorite things to do. And Ilse, always knows this. I have a soft spot for speaking to colleges and anyone, because you really are the future of what's going to be driving this industry and what's going to be happening in the industry. And 24/7 is the largest provider of talent in the marketplace, not only fashion, beauty, marketing, interactive, and creative. So we touch really all parts of the business, but really my background's fashion. We started in fashion, and really, it's a big part of what we do on a daily basis. So this is a little snapshot of, the most in-demand jobs in the marketplace right now, marketing and digital marketing jobs. There's not a day that doesn't come by that a fashion client calls us and says, we need someone for social media. We need someone for e-commerce. We need someone for email marketing. We need someone for customer retention and marketing on a daily basis. It's a huge part of what's driving the business right now. I mean, like Ilse said, the business has really changed during COVID, and how people are marketing now and how they're touching people, how technology is touching people. It's a big part. Sales, number 2, creative roles, number 3, operations, number 4. And again, just to reiterate what Ilse was talking about, people have really, we have a big supply chain problem right now. Operations is a big has a lot of pressure on it right now. It's in demand. People are trying to change the way they're operating companies right now. And then e-commerce. Again, I see companies that just want to be business to business all day long. It really is changing. So these are all really exciting roles. The top 100%, this is so true. Top 10 in-demand jobs now did absolutely not exist in 2011. Like, yeah, I mean, even in 2015 or 16, some of these jobs didn't even exist.
Data analyst, the word data analyst didn't even exist, right?
No, I mean, customer retention, like I think we didn't even really start talking about this, I think, till 2 years ago. People have 10 to 14 jobs by the age of 38. That's changed dramatically. 1 in 4 are in their position less than 1 year. I'm not saying these are great things. I'm just saying this is what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, so let's talk about what the problems are with this. The problems are creating your expertise. How do you become an expert at something? Right?
Yeah, I will tell you one of the things that I do see, and I is being in this business for a long time. I think sometimes people tend to jump when the kitchen gets a little hot. And I think that kind of working through problems are one of the biggest ways you can prove yourself in this business, because when the people that survived during, I'm just going to talk about COVID, the people that survived during COVID are those that were really resilient, were problem solving, were figuring things out. So like Ilse said, you're going to create an expertise, but you're also going to figure out how to be resourceful, how to rise above. Cream rises to the top, 100%. 1 in 2 are in their jobs less than 5 years. 70% of all jobs are found through networking. I want to say we have a hand in this too, but that's part of it. But listen, the other part of this, 1 in 4 are in their positions less than 1 year. This is an incredibly, incredibly small industry. And if you don't leave a job in a positive light, we sometimes will send resumes over to clients and they'll, before we even get a response, they're like, no, I didn't hear good things. I mean, this is a very small industry, and to leave things in positive terms, even if you're exiting a company, to do it in a positive light is really critically important. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, job search trends. Know and research your audience. I always say this, and it's really true. Like, you have more things at your fingertips now than ever before. Like, there's almost an overabundance of information. And if anyone's showing up for an interview unprepared, not doing research, not looking up who they're meeting with, there's literally no excuse. I mean, I always say this, like when I started job searching, it's long time ago, there was no, the web, there was no way to get information. I had to go to the library, pull cards, like make phone calls. It's like, you have so many incredible, ask your professors, ask your friends. You can look up social media. There's so many incredible ways to do this right now.
Tammy, also speak to the issue of change your portfolio based on who you're going to be speaking with. Don't show bridal gowns to a sportswear manufacturer.
100%. I mean, I think that's part of know your audience. I think knowing your audience and opening up a portfolio that is like dusty and crickety and smells like smoke or what, it's just, there's no excuse for it these days. I mean, people want great talent, and that's what, again, that's you're looking to be innovators. You're looking to be the best of the best. And you really have to constantly be adapting and learning your craft. That's an important, very important part of it. Like, if you're going to be, I mean, this is interviewing at Hot Topic, you don't wear a conservative outfit, right? If you're going to interview at Guess, you're not going to go wear something emblazoned with another, denim company on your shirt. Know your audience, know who you're speaking with. I honestly could talk about interview tips for 2 hours. So that's like, number two, but I really feel very passionately about interviewing and the do's and don'ts on that. Network. I mentioned this before. LinkedIn, friends, school, social media. I mean, you should literally be able to look up a company, look to work there. I mean, there's Glassdoor. You can look up Glassdoor now. You can look up, I mean, again, ask your teachers, ask your professors, look on Women's Wear Daily, look on California Apparel News. You could look in the LA Times, Wall Street Journal. There's things every day that you could be learning about companies you want to be working for. And then,
but also everyone you meet, wherever you work, you knew them. Do you have their number? Do you have their card? I know the idea of business cards is obsolete, but I must tell you, it's not obsolete in the business world. Mm-hmm. Even if it's a cute little thing that you leave behind. Yeah. The people you are meeting every day, meeting face to face, are people you're going to meet 10 years from now.
Oh my God. I mean, yeah, I mean, Ilse knows I spent many years at Guess running the recruiting department there. And I had people come back into my world all the time. People I placed in jobs to come back. And I never forget people that didn't show up for an interview. I never forget people that didn't leave a positive impression, or, again, this is a very small industry. It's big, but it's small. So, again, people typically hire people that they like. They typically hire people that have a can-do attitude, and that's a big part of it. Attitude is 50% of the job sometimes. Again, if you're working hard and you're trying your best, that's going to sometimes get you pretty far as well too.
Is that the sell yourself part?
Yeah, it's selling yourself. It's being positive. It's being like, it's again, no one's opening. Here's the other thing I'm going to say to you, this. No one's opening a door for you. It takes you to get through that door. And it really literally takes some, again, hard work, answering. You may go on 6 interviews until you find the 7th that is really great for you, but it's not about being discouraged. It's kind of like keeping those doors open and keep pushing through that. And you are your greatest asset, 100%. And no one else is going to, sell you better than yourself.
I've had this slide in there, and you can speak to it too. Any company, even if there are 2 people in a company, even if you and your friends start a website, all of these things are part of your company. It does not begin and end with design or merchandising. So the more you know about all of these things, I mean, you can make your product, but how are you going to get it to the store? I mean, unless you personally deliver it. And so these components of any company, can we speak to something that's political, Tammy? This is, I've always felt this in my multitude of years. This is an industry that you cannot point to that has any predisposition to any sex, color, age, or whatever, or gender, whatever. We have it all. So to say that you're being discriminated against in the business of fashion, I would say that could be disproven in many ways. You want to speak to that, Tammy? Because, it is an issue in today's world.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to reiterate what you're saying. Yeah, this is, again, I mean, I'm going to reiterate, yes, 100% what you're saying, Ilse. There's a place for everyone in this industry, 100%. And I think the industry is ever evolving, and I'm gonna leave it like that. Yes, 100%.
But that the reason I mention that is because just because you're a creative, we don't have to love you just because you're creating a new look. What else do you know? Mm-hmm. It's what else do you know? Do you know all of the steps? You don't have to do them all. I certainly can't be an accountant, But you certainly have to know that there's more to being successful than being a creative. And I put that in quotes. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, people, it's funny. I've talked to people that say, well, I have backing. I'm like, you have backing to do what? Like, what's your product? Like, what is actually your product? What is actually your plan to get from A to Z? I mean, it's great to be an entrepreneur. I mean, I think that's incredible. I consider myself pretty entrepreneur myself, but again, understanding from A to Z and understanding the steps to get there are pretty critical.
Understand the process. Can we talk a minute? Because I don't know if you were here when I went through this.
Yep.
This. The new normal.
Yep.
Now you have people that are in all of these things, right?
Yep. I mean, yeah, it's very different now. I mean, the way people are doing, again, artificial intelligence planning, the way that they're doing, virtual shows now, the way that they're doing the supply chain now, the way that they're doing, they're hiring a social media strategist rather than a marketing person, there's many different aspects of the way the business is working now. It's fascinating, and it's definitely moving at lightning speed. So that there is all these new normals, which I think, I think CSUN definitely support. Again, this entrepreneurial aspect of, the new normal is really incredible.
Okay, so let's open it up to questions. Shirley, or who is our question handler? Noelle?
It's going to be me and Noelle.
Anna.
Okay.
So
I have a question first that I would like to share. How do you think the fashion industry will look in 10 years as technology changes and progresses?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
How do you think the fashion industry will look in 10 years as technology changes and progresses?
10 years from now?
Yeah.
Okay. A good question. I love it. It's very esoteric.
Yeah, do you want me to answer it? I can take a stab at that.
Tammy, you take it, because I'll give you a shot at the financial.
Yeah, I'm going to take a stab at that. I know this is I think companies are trying to be smarter on how they use technology. Like Ilse said, it's getting more and more technology. So, in years past, how they're, cutting items, how they're not wasting things. I think technology is going to play a more critical role on sizing, fabrication, how, virtual show. I just think it's going to get more technology based. That's just what my thinking is. I think that, it's funny, even the apparel industry during COVID, I think a lot of trend forecasters thought apparel was going to be very utilitarian, it was going to go in one direction, but it was quite the opposite, actually.
It was very wrong.
Very wrong. Very, very wrong. People wanted to put on pretty dresses, and they wanted to get nice. It was just very wrong. So, but I do think technology with that is going to play a really important part. Anyways, that's my stab at it also.
Yeah, well, from the business aspect, I'll take it. Legacy brands will be over. It'll be very difficult in 10 years to even find a Ralph Lauren in the shops. The older, big behemoth elephants that had a look, they'll be very good on vintage, but they won't be very good to address the needs that you have. I have a slide on the scope of change from the hot garment, like the Vans shoes, the Vans white slip-on now because of Squid Games, to the time when it's over is 3 months. 5 years ago, it was 2 years. That Crocs is back because Justin Bieber wore it. How long will that last? Maybe 5 months, maybe half a year, whatever it is. But it's so fast. The whole idea of what's in, it's going to be micro. Many, many more micro businesses, smaller businesses that are much more agile, that can change. If China closes up its supply chain as it is now, can they move it to Colombia quickly? Right now, they can't. The people who are making merchandise in China and Vietnam are scrambling to see where else they can make things. And it's a 3-year plan to change your source of supply. It won't be. 10 years from now, we will be so international. We will have factories in Portugal. We will have factories in Turkey. We will have factories in Mexico. And we will be able to move on a dime. And we won't be making 20,000 or 50,000 units of a style. That's where I see 10 years from now. I don't, unless it's in activewear, truly activewear, mountain climbing, and all of that stuff. I mean, the outdoor retailer is a whole nother world. Outdoor retailing, we're not talking about fashion. But in fashion merchandising, I think you, the Generation Zers, and the new group, we call them Alpha, by the way, have very short attention spans. Very short in terms of what's hot, what's in. And it will all depend, again, on the movies, on streaming. The effect of all these streamers, ladies and gentlemen, is going to affect fashion. There is more entertainment coming at you now than ever came before. And entertainment drives fashion. That's my 10-year vision.
Thank you.
Another question from the chat is, how do you think the fashion industry should tackle the problem of fashion waste and overconsumption caused by the rapidness of the trend cycle?
Well, you have two different issues, overconsumption and fashion waste, okay? You're the cause of overconsumption, okay? You want what you want when you want it, not your mother. So fashion waste is being worked on with the picture I have in front of you. Technology will address fashion waste. Technology has addressed sustainability in most factories, the mainstream factories acknowledge the whole issue of global warming, of climate change. And by the way, being in California, you have to. We have so many CEQA requirements. CEQA is Southern California Quality Control. So we have so many issues controlling environmental production in California, more so than anywhere else in the country, that there is a control of not only waste, but the ability to make your merchandise in an environmentally controlled manner. It will never be 100%, unless you are all going to be in a uniform, or you're all going to be wearing black. The minute you want color, the minute you're in chartreuse or hot pink, you take a look at yourself in the mirror, and that is not environmentally correct. If we were all going to be environmentally correct, we will be moss green and beige. And I don't look good in either color. So how does the industry is definitely dealing with sustainability and environmental production. Everyone. California as a state is forcing the issue. Overconsumption, that's a whole nother issue. That's your choice. That's your choice on whether or not to have, you have probably 7 or 8 pairs of sneakers or tennis shoes in your closet now. Did you need another pair? And why are you buying Vans slip-ons? You know, that's you. That's not the industry. Another question, Eva?
Yeah, another question is, do the same legal actions apply to normal people who are fans of music artists creating their own merchandise?
Oh, yes. And that's one of the biggest problems. The artists who are creating their own merchandise, be aware that it's being made, it's being produced. So it's not as if it comes out of thin air. And we have a lot of it, by the way. The H-Wood Group is working with the basketball players, and they're also working with some of the Rams teams, and certainly with Drake and with all these people making merchandise. And yes, they are definitely being looked at as infringers because they're not designers. They think whatever's pretty is because they like it and because their name, their brand is worthwhile. It should be out there. But if they're infringing on somebody else, they're going to get hit with a lawsuit. The music industry is up in arms about this, but bear in mind that that's not my specialty. But please realize there are only 8 notes, only 8 notes, and they are suing each other, the people who are creating these songs. But yes, the laws apply to the artists who are at a sports arena show, and they make all these. I mean, we have companies that are making 10,000 sweatshirts and hoodies and T-shirts at a time for every event that's coming on. That's apparel, and they are constricted by the same laws as everyone else. And by the way, those are not environmentally correct at all. Those are PVC prints, but that's another story. Okay. Yes. Ava, any other?
Yes. So along with the previous question, Isabella is asking, how do you think the fashion industry will continue to move forward to accommodate the rapidness of the trend cycle?
Tammy, how do they move forward? We are in the front of it.
Yeah, I mean, they're moving. I mean, I think they're constantly adapting and figuring out ways to ship, it's marketing, social media, it's however they can move faster. I think even being on these virtual calls, I mean, I think people are able to get technology in a different way now than they did before, Yes, people want to go to PV in Paris and they want to do all this stuff, but there's other ways for people to get the information as well too. So I think they're looking at, touching things in different ways than they did in the past.
Let me then just outline how it used to be when I had a line. In other words, I was president of a company, I was the designer, and you made samples. And before you made the sample that everyone liked, that the boss liked, that the merchandiser liked, that the sales manager liked, you made maybe 6 or 7 samples. You made a variety of samples before you even got consensus that would be put on the line. Then you made 12 units of each sample. So if you had 75 styles on your line, you made 12 units of 75 styles just to send out to your showrooms in Dallas, Atlanta, California, Chicago, Seattle, and Europe. And you made samples, duplicates. It was called duplicates. And so that all of these showrooms showed all of this product. You talk about waste, ladies and gentlemen. There's the waste. The sample sales proliferated because every garment that was accepted into your line, you put a line item at $75,000 per style by the time you sold it, because you had to make duplicates and then you made the production pattern. And then before you got it fitting right was another 3 samples. That's how it used to be. The change is now dramatic with sizing, with the moving visualizers, with pattern making, with every step along the way. To change the colors of a print took 6 weeks until some artist put in every drop of pink, or cut a screen. Screens cost $600 per color. If you had 6 colors in a screen, as you see this, that's how much it cost you just to make a sample. That's all gone. Those issues are all over. They've been taken over by technology. So the change is dramatic, dramatic. That's why everything moves so fast. And that's why everything needs to be digitized. You need to know the numbers. And let me give you an example that I hope we can cure. California Fashion Foundation, my foundation, every year we did a scholarship event, and we hope to do it again next year. Scholarship event where we have asked all of you to submit, the school submit 3 students' garments that they have selected as the best of, and we show it to the industry. 300 people coming through, looking at the garments with a page showing the cost sheet. I have yet to see a correct cost sheet from a student of any school. A realistic cost sheet of how much is in that garment, from the hanger to the buttons to the shipping to everything. They're not realistic. You design a garment and you say this should sell for $200, but when you really do the cost sheet based on the fabric, based on shipping, based on labeling, it's not there. That has to change from the schools. Digitizing the tech pack is the most important thing that you can do for a company. It's costing. Tammy, you have anything to say on that?
Hold on. No, I thought you did it beautifully.
Oh, all right.
Beautifully.
Well, because we have this, for the past 12 years, we've been doing this event. Every May, we do the scholarship event, and the cost sheets are almost comedic.
Yeah.
The garments are gorgeous, gorgeous. Your talent is clear, but reality bites.
Yeah. I saw a question on there on Zoom interviewing, which there's a lot of other questions, but I did see an interview question on there.
Please go right ahead.
Do you suggest we prepare for these type of interviews? I can send to Ilse. I will say this is a different type of interview. We do have 24/7 does have a one sheet on preparing for video calls, which I can get over to Ilse to send over to the class. I think it's, again, what does your background look like? Do you talk slowly and articulately? Do you look nice? I think it's almost sometimes harder to prepare for a phone interview, because at least on a virtual, you can see when people pause and pause. But I think the one advice I would give was to really practice with friends. Everyone here has FaceTime. You can get a Zoom free. Practice presenting, practice showing your screen to show your portfolio. I think it's just like everything. Interviewing doesn't come naturally for everybody. You got to practice. No one's expecting anyone to show up for their first interview and be able to say, hey, walk me through your resume. Tell me about your last few positions and what was the most challenging thing about them. You got to practice those answers. Practice, look up interview questions, be doing it with your friends. So I will say it takes practice, but we do it all day long. People get hired all day long now virtually on Zoom, and it will just continue that way.
Let me ask a question following up on that, Tammy.
Yeah.
Because I get this a lot. All of you are individuals now, more so than ever. You have your individual style, your individual hairdo, your individual makeup. The way you dress is individual. How does that play into this? I would say, again, depending on what job you're asking for. I mean, if you're looking at a conservative company and you come in, looking for, like, as if you're dressed for Halloween, that's going to be a problem. So
Yeah.
knowing, how do they investigate the company they're talking to?
I think they look and see if they know anyone that's worked at that company. Again, Glassdoor gives a good indication on environments. But I will also say that, if like I mentioned before, if you're more like, if you like to be the more conservative type, then probably it doesn't mean that Hot Topic is the right company for you, but you also have to be in environments that you will feel like you're going to thrive in.
Right.
So I think social media gives a good indication of companies, and I think because there is so much virtual interviewing right now, I think companies are being more forthright with what the expectations are from the get-go. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, I do this, sometimes I do 15 of these a day. So yeah, it's there's a lot of Zooming happening. Yeah.
A lot of Zooming.
A lot of Zooming.
Can you opt out in an interview not to have your picture up?
That's a great question. I've never had that before, Ilse. I've never had anyone opt out on that before. I mean, I did have an interview recently where someone said their camera wasn't working, which I did think was a little odd that they had that. And it was also a red flag. It was for someone internally at 24/7. And that was also a little concerning because they didn't give me the heads up that their camera was not working. Again, you get these things all day long, like where you have to make sure you're in a spot that has good Wi-Fi. Again, are you communicating clearly? So she said her camera wasn't working. So I don't know, but I haven't had that. And I would think a company would think that's a big red flag if someone did that.
Any other questions in the queue for Tammy?
Yes, another question for Tammy is, what are the top 10 jobs currently in demand?
Yeah, well, I think I mentioned that before. I mean, I'll just, within fashion is, oh my gosh, tech design, 100% for sure. I mean, I'll talk about a little bit of both. Tech design is huge. Production assistants, product development, social media, marketing, digital marketing managers, e-commerce managers, creative directors, art directors, copywriters, supply chain, operations, again, e-commerce all day long. So those are like the top ones, but there's definitely a bit of a shortage of right now of design talent right now in the marketplace too.
How do they define design talent? Because this is a design and merchandising class.
Yeah.
Am I clear, Shirley? This is design and merchandising. So how do they define?
Yes.
How does a talented person define themselves? Is it with CADs? Is it still? I think the old-fashioned portfolio is passé.
It is. It's a combination of them both. It's a combination of them both. It's a combination of because I will say you have to show your great CAD skills, but there are some clients that still want to see a hand. They want to see both, even though you may not be using the hand, they want to see what your hand looks like.
Right.
And then they also, I've always liked to see, and I look at them, I always like to see someone's like inspiration book and sketchbook and what that looks like. So it's kind of the combination of all three. I mean,
that's good advice. Excellent.
Yeah. So, and again, you should be able to show your portfolio digitally, because just because it's you're doing hand, that will be scanned in, you can show it, you can share your screen. So it's all of that. And a lot of people have a web-based portfolio now. So I think that's really important as well too. Yeah, it's really a combination. And again, it's a combination of like, what are you looking at? What inspires you? Like, all that. Yeah.
Well, that's part of being prepared. The whole issue here is the more that you can show that you're up to speed of where this industry is, the more that you can show that you are at least aware of the new way of this industry working, the better off you are. I do think, and I go back to, I was asked for the Rhode Island School of Design and Savannah, SCAG, and two students from each school were referred to me because they lived here. And I was appalled at the lack of current information that their school, now we're talking about very expensive 4-year colleges in design, that they had no technical background whatsoever, none at all. These were old-fashioned, big black portfolios with no CAD presentation and no style sheets and nothing. So I do think that you're in a great position to be ahead of the trend because we're the industry here. We are the industry, unlike New York, that wants you. They want new talents all the time and change all the time. It's very different than New York.
Yeah.
Yes? Tammy,
100%. Yeah, I mean,
New York office, you see that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I will have to even say, like, I do a lot of, I talk to a lot of people, I talk to a lot of classes, even just like turning your cameras on, you know, like when it's the big view, there's a lot, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Next question.
Yes, okay. So many people have mixed feelings about influencers representing a brand. Would you say that influencers are taking away the meaning of high fashion?
Well, I'll take that, and then you they're defining high fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Influencers are defining fashion. There's no Vogue or Harper's. Nobody reads those anymore. Going back to, but you get influencers like this. They're defining fashion. You may not like it, but there's no question about it. I mean, you will not, Harper's Bazaar will be gone in 3 years. 17 is already gone. Vogue will probably be the only one standing. But even in Vogue, if you take a look at Vogue magazine and take a look at their editorials, which is supposed to be the advanced look of fashion, the editorials are only of advertisers.
Yeah.
Only. So the editorials are the advertisers. Yeah, but when you say high fashion, let me, if this doesn't make you nervous, let me go to the very first. High fashion is an evolution. This is Dior last week or 2 weeks ago, and there's 1968. So the Dior show, all of those garments will only be considered high fashion if an influencer starts to wear it. Otherwise, it'll just be a garment in a fashion show. What do you think, Tammy?
Yeah, I mean, again, there's not a company that doesn't have a social media, and marketing. Social media is their marketing where their spend is for social strategy, social media. That's where dollars are going. Like you don't really hear, there's not really the buys happening on the the fashion on the paper side. It's the dollars are spent totally different.
Totally in fashion, in social media.
Yeah. Right. And again, it could be, again, a TikTok person. It could be many different ways that they're defining social, but it could be, again, it could be a YouTube. Those influencer has a very broad reach, but it's many, yes.
But the question, Ava, as you posted is where is high fashion going? Or what was the question that you just read?
Yeah, the question is, would you say that influencers are taking away the meaning of high fashion?
No, they are the exclamation point. High fashion still gets promoted What is high fashion? Okay. And then if the influencer runs with it, the housewives of Beverly Hills, the housewives of New York, the housewives of Utah, wherever the housewives are, they are promoting high fashion.
I'm going to give an example of that. Like, again, you look at Kim Kardashian, who wore Balenciaga to the Met Ball. Balenciaga is one of the biggest high fashion houses. They're blowing up right now. I mean, it's just kind of redefining how they're working. It's redefining them.
Oh, absolutely. If you get a Rick Owens, who is impossible to wear on one of these influencers, suddenly people are looking at Rick Owens as a wearable instead of, something with holes in it. Yes, no, they are defining social media. Let me put it this way, Eva. Social media defines high fashion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's so quick to become low fashion. It's knocked off immediately because of social media, which is a whole nother set of problems.
Yeah. I think there's two other questions. What do you want me to ask? I can ask. What classes do merchandising students need to take to be successful in the industry? Well, I think the thing about merchandising right now is merchandising can go in many different directions. Merchandising can be merchandising product development. It could be merchandise planning. It could be merchandise assortment. It could be merchandise e-commerce. So, I would say having a broad touch of everything is going to make you more, but much more valuable. That's what my thought process is. And understanding planning in that. And from a digital standpoint, e-commerce is very, 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 very important right now.
I'm sorry, what was that question? Do you think, what was that question?
What classes do merchandising students need to take to be successful in the industry? What classes do design students need to take?
Okay, understand that the designer works for the merchandiser.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a hierarchy here. Mm-hmm. You go into a place as a designer, you are working for a merchandiser. Merchandiser, before you design something, unless you own the company, the merchandiser should have a view of what that whole line looks like. How many short sleeves, how many long sleeves, how many reds, how many blue. That is a numbers game. The merchandiser is a numbers game. It's your lookbook. It's what the line looks like. Then the designer fills in the slots. That's how it works professionally. You may think the designers set the line, but if they're not working under a merchandising plan, so merchandisers have to understand how to plan it, how to plan what percentage is long, short, top, bottom, jacket, t-shirt. That's merchandiser. It's numbers. It's clearly numbers. And you know what it's all based on? What's sold before. What history, what happened at retail at this time in 2019? Let's ignore 2020. But what happened at retail in October, November, January, February? That's a merchandiser. Merchandisers are very, very process-driven people, not creative-driven people, process-driven people. Those are the best merchandisers. Tammy?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, I think you're right. And then there's the other question was, what classes do design students need to take? I think you need to understand, again, it's not just creative, it's you understand product development, you have to understand production, you have to understand the full life cycle of, again, you're having your creative hat on is huge, but again, to understand the whole process is going to make for a longer, more successful career.
Yes, it will. I had in one of our panels, we had a designer, a fabulous designer. She's head of the design department for a major company. And she told the class, the people what she did in the course of a day. From ticketing, what is going to say on the ticket, how to define what the fabric content is. Who knows better what the content in is? The washing instructions, the designer. That's who production goes to. So it's, in the course of designing a garment that is approved by the merchandiser, who gets it approved by the sales manager. Understand where the designer is in this hierarchy, okay? That designer needs to be able to sit in the room and answer these questions. So the product, the ability to design is wonderful. And here it is, it's on the hanger and everybody loves it. It's a new neckline. It's just a great look. Okay, how do I wash it? How do I make it fit? What's the interlining? I mean, there are questions. And the more that you as the designer can comprehend the questions that you will be asked, but that's the sheet, that's the cost sheet. Your cost sheet has to be your Bible. And I've known many designers in my day and age that cannot do math and just hand the garment over to somebody who does a cost sheet. But that doesn't work if you're can I tell you one other thing a designer needs to know how to do? Talk. You're the one that the boss is going to say, well, where'd you get this inspiration from? How do you feel about this? Who's going to wear it? And talk. It's a very communicative job.
There was another question here about, from me, do I think a virtual internship is beneficial? I think any experience is beneficial. Mm-hmm. I think literally, if you are, if they're giving you tasks and you're learning through your tasks and you're being accountable for what you're doing and you're being able to put it on your resume, yes, it's beneficial. So I think whatever you can do to gain insight would be huge.
Right. And I would say to you guys, the first job, don't worry about it, but get a job where you touch garments. Whatever retail store, any retail store, do not flip hamburgers. Do not do anything for your father's office if it's not apparel. Go and get a job at retail. You must have something on your resume that touches our industry, that says you've made change. You understand that there are people out there who do not who do not dress like you. You must make your boss understand that you can be objective about product. And I saw a question here that I love to answer, and that's about difference between Fashion Week and Market Week.
Yeah.
We have market weeks in California. 5 market weeks a year, and pretty much every 10 weeks, there's new product to be shown. We don't have New York Fashion Week, and New York Fashion Week is a colossal waste of money but it does create branding. And New York's industry are the major holders of brands. They want to sell perfume, they want to sell shoes, they want to sell all of their licenses. So the Fashion Week fashion shows are licensing opportunities. California, Dallas, Atlanta, Chicago are market weeks where buyers come to see the finished product on a hanger as it relates to their store. Fashion Week New York are friends and family and press. Very few, as a matter of fact, at this point, no buyers are in the audience. No buyers. Not one garment, not one order will be written after a New York fashion show. Not one. In Paris, at least there are private customers for the Pret, but not in New York. Those are media events. Colossal money is being exchanged for those media events. They create brands. They do not necessarily translate to sales. When is the last time anyone on this Zoom meeting bought a Michael Kors? Okay, I mean, or a Ralph Lauren. Different audience, different audience. It's there to establish brand visibility, brand identity, but it's not there to sell product. Go ahead.
Another question is, what are the most efficient ways to stay updated on the industry?
Well, the updated on the industry is certainly, certainly there's Women's Wear Daily and California Apparel News. Sourcing Journal, by the way, is a new one that is owned by Women's Wear Daily. It's owned by the same owner of Women's Wear Daily owns Sourcing Journal. And Ed, the publisher, they're trying to position it so that Sourcing Journal is the how-tos of the business, the shipping issues, all of that. And Women's Wear Daily is the fashion end of the business. It would be worth your while to be able to access both. And then there's the newcomer, which is the Business of Fashion, which is pretty much focused on Europe. But they're very good about the business of fashion on a global scale. And those are pretty much the opportunities for you to see what's going on. But not knowing what the supply chain issue is right now is a disservice to a company, because you can't design if you don't know where your fabric is coming from, where the zippers are coming from, where's the button coming from, all of that. That's the business of fashion. But I would think if you have access to Women's Wear Daily, Sourcing Journal, Business of Fashion, and California Apparel News, you pretty much have it covered.
Okay. Another question is, how have manufacturers in downtown LA been affected by COVID?
Factories or brands, it's two different things. A brand, a Guess, Trina Turk, Karen Kane, they don't have a factory. They use contractors. For the most part, the first time COVID, 2019, the end of 2019, I would say that at least 70% of our brand manufacturers were contracting for masks and for anything to be worn by the people in the medical field, whether it was scrubs or whether it was gowns. Everyone converted to medical supplies. And interestingly enough, we, the CFA, we put the factories together with the hospitals. We got the call. We had a whole list of hospitals who needed stuff. I mean, this whole thing took everybody by surprise. I think from now on, you'll see warehouses full of medical supplies just in case. But so they converted, but they're all converting back again because as Tammy said, the demand for new product, we're all throwing away what we wore in the house for a year. If we see one more legging that we had on every day, we're throwing it out. So we're buying all new stuff, new shoes, new pajamas, new leggings, new everything. And that's what the whole backup is for. It's a sudden surge that no one expected. No one expected. Everyone expected people to be very, what's the word, Tammy? Just to be very calm after COVID and just relax and
change your lifestyle. I think they were thought, changing lifestyles.
Be basic, change your lifestyle, just wear the same thing all week as they do in Paris. It's not going to happen. It hasn't happened and it won't happen.
Another question is, what would you suggest to a graduating senior right now who is going through the job search process? Is there anything to keep in mind or
Good question, Tammy?
I think I think be a sponge. I think do research, take notes, ask for assistance. I just think you look at everything. I don't think there's one piece of advice. I mean, the one piece of advice I'd be like, be a sponge, be your own advocate, sell yourself, go out there and look for, ask for informational meetings, ask, like, again, the world is your oyster. And I think I've seen really great people, and the people that shine very brightly. I will say there's really a huge difference between those that are making an effort and those that are not. There's really not a lot of middle ground, to be blunt. So I think if you make effort and you put it out there, you're going to get something back from it. So yeah.
I would add one thing here. Do you know what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you in your own vacuum of just the websites you like, just the brands you like? Do you know everything about what's going on? Who's hot, who's not? If you're reading and you're seeing, do you know Revolve, Reformation, Shein? Do you know what of the Fashion Nova? Do you know these people? And do you know what's going on? That's very, very important that you get out of just looking at your own Instagram feed and your friends on Facebook. Go beyond your own personal self. I think it's vital that even as a designer, to go beyond the mirror. Just designing just what you like to wear, that's not a designer.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you get to be a big shot and you have your own brand.
Right.
But if you're going to be a designer, you're going to be designing for another company.
I could take this next question, Ilse, about the freelancing. So part of what 24/7 does is we match temporary talent with companies. So yeah, some people can freelance from many different companies. I mean, you do sign an agreement with us just saying that you're not going to obviously take anything proprietary, and the same sometimes for the companies. But that's what you do when you register with 24/7. We pay you, the company pays us. It's just a kind of some ways called a creative temp. But and it's not just really design, it's everything, again, from social media, production, product development, all aspects of the business. You could freelance. And I always like to say, freelancing is a great way to try out companies and get your foot in the door, because companies like to try people out. Like they like to try the dress on before you buy it. So it is a great way to sample what's out there. And again, they're going to see if you're working hard and if you have what it takes.
But what kind of talent or aptitude do you need to be a freelancer, Tammy? I mean, what's the difference between freelance and intern?
Well, an intern is typically not graduated school. An intern is typically getting either course credit or they'll get a stipend. So that's an intern. A freelance design, again, we have freelancers that are doing, production coordinating. We have freelancers that are doing actual design. So, but coming out of school, you're not going to be a freelance designer. You're going to be a freelance assistant designer. You'll
Right.
be, there's different levels of what a freelancer actually does. But typically a freelancer is skill driven. You have a particular skill set a company needs. So
that's what I was getting to.
Yeah,
it
sorry.
is skill set driven.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Another question is, do you think fashion blogging sites are still relevant today?
Absolutely. Depends on who.
Yeah.
What is the credential of the blogger, though? I mean, I'm not sure that if any of you were blogging, you would have to prove your credential. Why should anyone listen to you? But fashion blogging is an extension of being an influencer.
100%.
What you do need, and Shirley, this is interesting. We had this conversation at lunch, the ability to write. Can you communicate? Can you put your thoughts down on paper? do you know what a comma is? Then that is what a good blogger, either it's humorous, smart, insightful, but it's words on paper. Tammy?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I mean, I think that, the original influencers started out blogging, and a lot of them still have their blogs. And it's really part of the extension of the brand of that, because influencers are brands now in many ways too, like they're their own brand. So it kind of filters back to that in many ways. A lot of them just aren't doing like fashion. They'll do beauty, they'll do home, they do many different aspects. And that blog is really a representation of that. So I don't think it's dead in any way, shape, or form.
But I also would not warn you, but tell you that a good brand social media marketing strategy includes a blogger.
Yeah.
That is paid for by the brand. And all that blogger does is talk about that brand. Mm-hmm. That's blogging. That's very different than being an influencer. But that's just another form of social media blogging.
Yep.
But they're very relevant.
Yep.
Go ahead.
How do you find a job in the fashion industry that best fits you and your talents?
I was looking at that one too. And I have to tell you, that's where the 10 jobs come in.
Yeah.
You're not going to find it right away.
Yeah.
You have to have many jobs before you have that fit. Tammy?
I would say every job, I always have a saying, the perfect job is that best job that suits you right now, because the best job when you start out school could be like the one with the hardest, most challenging boss, where you may feel like you're sinking every day. But I'm going to tell you, when you go to that second job, you will have learned the most on that first job.
Exactly.
And it's about like really, again, I love my roots of working at Guess, because, they're one of the biggest fashion companies in LA. And I learned, huge processes there that a lot of companies don't have. And I can impart that wisdom to other, so you're going to take knowledge of one company and you're going to bring that to the next company. And that second job, there's that also saying of the grass isn't always greener. It's, sometimes it's just green. So I think you sometimes have to go through this process. And like I said before, you work hard and you leave on good terms and you dot your I's and cross your T's, and it's going to serve you really well in this industry. And you're going to meet people and you're going to meet up with them in the next job. And it's, it's different points in time in your career.
I'm going to get back to Tammy's point originally. When that moving from job to job, make sure you're a friend to the job you just left, because you're going to see them the next time around.
Yes.
Somewhere along the line, you may even be back as an executive at the first job after you've gone through five or six different iterations. But be a friend. Wherever you might even say to the boss, look, this is not for me. I'm going to work for somebody else. They understand that, but don't just not show up.
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
The difference between leaving with a professional, look, this is not for me, I'm going elsewhere, hopefully not to a competitor, but even if it's elsewhere, and you never have to disclose where you're going. You don't have to say where you're going, just this is not for me. But leave as a friend. Don't leave anybody in the lurch. You are going, I guarantee you that you will see them again.
Yep. And people want references on this. Sometimes, the third job, they want references from your first job and they want to know what those look like. And sometimes I call and they're not good. So again, like to reiterate that, you really want a good, and people, everyone knows everybody. Yes. It's a small industry.
Because of that, we have, as part of CFA, we have FIRA, Fashion Industries Human Resource Association, at which Tammy is a speaker often and a supporter and a sponsor. Yeah. And there are laws about references now. No one can call and say, how much did you make? And you don't even have to tell anybody how much you made at the last job, by the way. But the big question that they can ask is, would you hire them back? That's the question that every HR person asks another HR person. Would you hire them back again? And if it's an adamant, absolutely not, that's all the reference they need.
Yep.
Another question is, do you think the location of your fashion business determines how successful it will be?
No. No. I mean, Patagonia's in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And I don't think it did, but there's so many businesses in Orange County now, the surfwear industry and so many. No, it doesn't. But the location of your salespeople could determine how successful you would be.
I just want to I'm going to add one thing to that. Sometimes it could depend on, again, if you have a big contemporary brand and you're located in, let's say Utah, I'm just randomly throwing this out there, that's going to be challenging in bringing on the best talent to Utah, right? You're not going to be able to do, it's going to be limited on doing talent. Now, Patagonia is a certain community. It's a big brand now. People move to go work for Patagonia because they believe so heavily in what they're doing in the sustainability and the lifestyle there. So, I mean, people are surfing for a coffee break there. It's a different, it's a different lifestyle. So, that wouldn't ever be in New York.
No, I mean, if you want to work in electric cars, you have to work for Tesla.
Right.
Yeah. And you can't just say, well, I'm going to work in Arizona and right. I want to work for Tesla. You just won't.
Right.
But to be in our business, the preponderance of the amount of companies that are here, it is here. When I say here, it's Southern California. Orange County is included. And so to answer that question.
Someone is asking if you could one more time list the hierarchy regarding the designers and merchandisers.
Oh, okay. Well, designers, merchandiser sets the overview for the styles per fabric, waist length, sleeve lengths, how many colors they need, how many garments they need in a line. Designer designs into that. Then the sales department has to say, well, I can sell that or I can't sell that. Now, if the sales department says, I can't sell that, and you're the best designer in the world, somebody's got to give, either the designer or the sales manager, depending on who owns the company. It depends on who owns the company. I have a whole series of slides of if the designer owns the company, of course they said it. But even Trina, who owns her company, has merchandisers who give her a menu. Based on what we did last year, Trina, we need 6 dresses. Based on what we did last year, we need 3 caftans, but caftans are in, maybe we should have 5. That's the conversation before the caftans are designed. Now, the salespeople are involved, and don't forget, very different selling to retail stores versus selling online. If you're creating a line for direct to consumer, different sizes, different inventory, different things that sell, that the same line in a store will have a totally different sales pattern. Tammy, do you see that?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree.
Yeah. Where is this garment going to be shown is the question. The same garment that sells online may be a dud in store. Yep. So that's why a merchandiser is so important. It's not picking garments out of a hat and saying that's the look. Okay. And above that is sales manager, but there's a bar. Now, if the salesman, now there are three different people who could be the boss, okay? If the designer is the boss, there's a look to the product at all times. If the sales manager, man, female, the salesperson is the owner of the company, then it's all numbers driven. It's all numbers driven. And generally it's give me 3 versions of what sold before. And if it's the production person who owns the company, it's give me what I can make in the factories I use. In all cases, the designer has to take direction. And I think that's something that you as design students need to know how to do well. Take direction. Shirley, am I being too tough?
Wait, okay, not at all. I had to unmute myself. Not at all. This is so informative and so valuable from both you and Tammy. So thank you both. Yes, but you're not being too tough at all.
Okay.
Good.
It's with the best of intentions, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I mean, we've had this conversation, you and I, so we all know these are things that students need to know. So definitely not being too tough.
Okay. Are we, are there more questions or are we?
I
think we've answered.
I think you guys have answered all of the questions and just a ton of valuable information. And we are going to share this again with students. I think that Elvia, of course, this is going on our YouTube and we'll be sharing it. And I think also that you guys are going to be sending me something as well. I think Stacy, you said that you were, okay? But I also noticed that Dr. Tamales is here, our Associate Dean. I don't know if you want to say a word or two. Dr. Tamales, are you there?
He's muted.
He is muted, so maybe he stepped
maybe
away.
he's walking.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And I've also noticed that our other ADM faculty is here. If you guys are, I could say a word. Dr. Kim is here. Let's see.
Dr. Kim, how did I do, Dr. Kim?
Yeah.
You're talking very much. Thank you so much. It's a great information. Appreciate it.
Right.
Great information. Right. Dr. Cho is here. Dr. Cho, would you like to say a word or two?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I had so much information, and I think maybe I can update in my course contents for teaching. Really appreciate. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Anytime.
And Dr. Goldstein is here. Dr. Lewis Goldstein is here. Dr. Goldstein?
This was just wonderful information, and everybody really needs to take to heart too, especially understanding how you're a part of an organization and you need to take the direction, not just you have the idea that's going to set everything. I think that's something that's really, really important that Ilse mentioned, especially at the end.
Absolutely. And I love it when you were saying, just be kind to everyone. You know, make a friend, be a friend, leave as a friend, you know, because you will meet these people again. So that is so very important. And you're right, this is such a small industry. Although we think it's a very large industry, we really will run into people again in this industry. We really will. So if Dr. Tamales, are you, I guess he did step away. Okay. So guys, I'm going to say thank you again for all this valuable information. And I'm going to turn it over and now I think to Noelle. I think I'm turning it back to you, Noelle.
I just want to say thank you for joining us today and a huge thank you to Ms. Metchek and Chatkin-Newman. We learned so much from this discussion and we're looking forward to next year and seeing you all again. And of course, at our Trends Annual Fashion Show in the spring semester.
Wonderful. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
And Tammy, thank you so much for being the most.
Always my pleasure.
Yes. Terrific.
Absolutely. Thank you both. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And we will look forward to having you guys back again.
anytime. I put my contact information in the chat too, if anyone needs it.
Great. Thank you so much. Because
My
we will
pleasure.
be in touch. Okay, Tammy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Noelle, we're ready to end?
Mhm.
Okay, great. Thank you all and have a wonderful and safe weekend. Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you.
Bye.